Hi, David Paul here. Well, I don't know quite what this what I'm going to put in this video. I'll just as always just make it up as I go along, but it's about the boat, because I've taken some shots from outside and I wanted to show the boat and how she works and qualities and details and things like that, and in particular the interior. So I'm standing in the cockpit on one of the side seats here, just looking down towards the bows, and the situation at the moment is I was supposed to go this morning, but there were terrible gales and it was raining like crazy, and I thought I'll not bother, I'll go later on in the day. And then I did some checking with the marina that I'm going to, and it's not going to match, the tides are not going to match very well what I'm doing. They advise going tomorrow, and they also say that the weather will be much better, because earlier this morning it was really rough. It's nice and well, it's a bit blustery, but it's nice weather at the moment. You do actually, it's ironic that you want nice weather to sail in, but at the same time you need wind in order to make the boat go, so it's a trade-off really. Anyway, so I'm looking down the boat, and there she is, as I've shown her before. Let's talk about the solar system. There's a small solar panel. It's one of these devices that they call flexible panels. Don't know who made that one, but I hate those things. I really don't like them. I mistrust them. I'm the kind of person that wants things to last, preferably forever, and I know that's an unreasonable point of view, but what I tend to buy is rigid ones. Now, what I bought is this thing. I'm not being sponsored by Sunstore, by the way, or anything like that. I've got no vested interest, but as far as I'm concerned, they're the best company in the country. I've bought things from Sunstore, there you go, in the past, and have suffered terrible abuse under my use. This one's a 60, I believe, if I remember rightly. Might be 45, no, it's 60. That one's 60. And this one I bought to charge my mobile phone when I'm in Portugal, so I can sit in a cafe outside and just plonk this on the table and charge the phone. That's the idea behind that anyway. So I've wired that up in parallel, so the two of them are working together. So theoretically they're banging out 65 watts, but that's only under perfect conditions. And what I've done is a kind of a hack here. I've got them wired together in parallel, and so anyone wanting to get emergency solar power, because we need our mobile phones these days, you know, we're doing an awful lot with them. So what I've done, the wires are wired together, the two panels are wired together in parallel, and what they're doing is they're feeding this device here, which that's one of those like cigarette lighter power things that you get in cars. You push it into the cigarette power socket, and on the front it's got USB ports. So basically this thing here thinks that it's feeding off a battery. It behaves as though it's feeding off a battery, which is the solar cells, and all it does is it regulates the power which goes through to feed your mobile phone, which I'm not charging at the moment. I'm charging a lamp, but I've got a lot of USB chargeable devices which are working just dandy off this. Now the sun has just come out, and so they will be really banging in the power. I've got a large lamp inside which should be that green light there flashing there is what's being charged. Now that's got quite a hefty battery in it. It'll go for a few days, and I'll explain what that thing does later, but basically it's pumping that thing like crazy. Okay, so cockpit. What do I like about this cockpit? Well, let's sit down. What's good about this cockpit? What's good about everything Westerly does? You'll notice that the cockpit, the edges are nice and rounded. So if you fall and bang yourself, you're not gonna hurt yourself on those things. And there's so many. The modern world seems to be obsessed with sharp angles, straight lines. Architecture's all based on straight lines and sharp angles. These are a bit sharp, but they do have to have a top here, so we'll forgive them for that. They got rounded edges anyway, just there. Yamaha outboard, which I was given because there's a problem with the engine. It's a minor one. They couldn't get the engine started, and they started playing around with the injectors and stuff, and then discovered it, and it was another problem. It's a reconditioned engine inside the boat, and so what they've done is they've given me this Yamaha outboard. So what's good about that? Well, it looks, oh wow, yes it is, it's 6, unless it's a letter G, but I think it's a 6 on the back there. And what's significant about that is I think it's a 6 horsepower outboard, and when you hit 6, that's the magic number, because that is what you call a sail drive. It will push a yacht along, a fairly substantial 30-foot yacht, and this is only a little toy, so that will really do me well. A lot of power there, and that I don't even need the main engine now. So that was a kind of a gift. Well, it wasn't not a gift from the gods, but a gift from the two guys who sold me the boat. Okay. What's also good here is there are no side storage here. There's no side storage here. Therefore, there's no lid. Therefore, there's no water going in there. Nothing. Now, at the back here, I'm not going to open it up because I just don't really want to pull things to bits. But there's some kind of a storage here, but it's only small, so it's not a big contribution to the potential for water to get inside the hull. And it's a really snug fit, that, so I'd be amazed if any water went in there, or if you rolled this boat, whether anything would go in there. Okay, so there you go. Now, sails. This is what you call a masthead sloop. Anybody considering buying boats, masthead sloop, you will see that what would normally be the foresteer, it doesn't have a foresteer. It's got this roller reefing here, is attached at the top of the mast, right up at the top. Yep, it is. Yeah, you can't quite see it all the way up there, but it appears to be further down. It's not. It's attached to the very top. Roller reefing. Just roll that out, roll it back in. That's a Genoa, which is a very big sail, big powerful sail, really pull me along. And the mainsail here, which I've just been unpacking. I have to have a play with these tonight because I got to pull them up and take them out and put them away. So I'll just ease them out a little bit, just so I know how the little details of how things work, because the cables on this system, the ropes, running rigging, run back to the cockpit. So I've got to figure out how that all works. I think it's straightforward, but I've got to do it. I can't do it in real time. I can't leave it till tomorrow. Don't know why I'm suddenly talking fast. There's not a time limit here. Okay, very large auxiliary tank there. I don't know what that takes. It takes about 25 litres, I think. It'll run you a couple of days. That you could actually just motor along. And I'm not proud. If I feel I need to do that with a new boat, I will do it. My objective is I've got to get to my target place, which is a marina that I've forgotten at the moment, near Minehead. Begins with a W. Whitehead Marina, I think it's called. And the problem with that is that everything you do here has to be phased with the tides. So if I leave here when the tide lets me out, I will get there and I'll just miss the opportunity to get in. So I'm going to have to wait outside the marina in order to get some water to sail in or motor in. I think I'll motor in into the marina. Now I'm sitting in the corner here, and this is the interior. Lots of things in here. That's kind of good because it gives you a sense of scale, because you probably all know what size a rucksack is and so on. So that's about the width of a small person. Okay, I slept here last night, or tried to. I slept a couple of hours. This is what I call a pipe berth. I think some people call them pilot berths. Why, I don't know. But I call them pipe berths because they're like a pipe. So, down there is this pipe berth. And I tried sleeping in it last night. And I kind of woke up in a sort of panic. Okay, in the middle of the night, what I get, it's not like panic attacks. What it is I'm basically just suffocating, you know. And that wakes you up. See, I thought I was having a panic attack. I often get this, and that's because I happen to find myself sometimes in situations where I'm not getting enough air. I learnt this from Helen Sharman, the astronaut. I went to a lecture of hers, and what happens is if you're in a warm place, like a warm country, or in the space station which she was in, the air doesn't float away from your mouth, so therefore you're breathing the same air all the time, just breathing it back in. I'm trying to get this so I can show you what that looks like. So you're breathing in your old stale air, and it's going backwards and forwards, and you don't know this, and then suddenly you start gasping for breath. Well, if you do that at night time, you'll wake up in a real panic, like, you know, because you're suffocating. That's the wrong pillow there, but that goes there, and there's another one goes there. At the back of here you've got lots of storage. That's quite a lot of storage. You could put a lot of food in there. This boat, I'm really surprised with this boat. It's got lots and lots of storage. Underneath there's storage all over the place here. I haven't explored it all. This sink is really amazingly well designed. Storage underneath. In the Prospect 900, the sink unit thing sort of really got on my nerves and got in my way. But this thing, it just feels like, I don't know, like a positive asset. You're pleased to have it, you know. More storage behind here. Put some food in there, and see, I haven't even filled that yet. More storage there, so plenty of storage. I don't think, unless I sail to the Philippines or something, I don't think I'm going to use all this storage up. The Prospect wasn't good on storage. It had lots of I think that's probably the difference, is that this hasn't got void spaces like the Prospect. The interior was badly designed for that. So to the purchaser of that boat, I would say start using the space underneath the buckets, and then you'll solve that problem. But the actual liners that they put inside the Prospect really restrict the space there. In fact, you could throw the buckets away. I'm making a little note of that because she's probably thinking, whoa, man, I've got the one with the no storage. You haven't, you've just got to use it better. Okay. Let's close that toilet. This here is the V-berth. First night in this boat, I tried sleeping in here, and yet again I wake up in a panic trying to breathe. You might tell from my breath that I'm having difficulty breathing. I've had COVID, and you know, it makes me breathless. I hope that'll get better. I'll tell you more about that later. Okay, so that's the V-berth. Quite large. There's a piece here which goes in there and fills this area here, so that it's kind of like a smallish double bed. 2 people could sleep in there. And in here, this is a sort of rope locker thing. It's what you want it to be. It's wet locker, but they left me a lot of really good ropes. I'm pleased with that. I could probably re-rig the boat with this lot. My as yet unused brand new self-inflating life jacket. Do not go to sea without one of them on, and do not go outside when sailing without being fastened onto the boat. You can be easily flicked out. Now I'm told, oh yeah, the toilet. There's the toilet, and it's full of scruffy dark water at the moment. And the reason for that is because I was told don't use the water in this bay to flush the toilet because it stains the bowl. So pour water down it and then flush it. Well, I don't want to do that. So what I'm doing whilst I'm here is every time I use a bit of water, say if I wash my hands, wash a cup or anything, that's had tea bags in it, so that there water is sufficient to flush the toilet. It's brilliant. It's the first time I've ever had a sea toilet and used one, and I'm impressed. I like them. They basically operate like vacuum powered toilets on aeroplanes. Okay, so now I'm in this pipe berth area, looking back on the boat. Criticisms of this boat, not a lot really. She is what she is. She's a small boat, you know, and you can't do anything about that. Spacious enough. Lots of seats there. You could all sit round there, especially in a nice warm climate like in Portugal or the Philippines, and you could all have a meal at that table. But here's the problem. I've pulled off that Fields of Armageddon look. It's untidy yet again, but these are all things I'm using all the time, so I don't really see much point in putting them away. Okay, what's wrong with this coming up is this table. So any Westerly Pageant owners out there, underneath there's a pedestal which supports it, and you can remove the top of the table. There's a sort of clamp thing, you turn it round and you can lift this table and get it out of the way. Last night, as I said, I was lying there and I felt claustrophobic. I pulled the cushions out and it still wasn't good enough. I didn't really, you know, you're pushing your limits here on what you can put up with in living in a small space, so that when you go to bed, that's just compounding that sort of closed in feeling. So for one person, as I say, it's ideal so long as you get the prime position. So in the daytime, I've got all these seats to sit on all over the place, and it's comfy, but you need somewhere comfortable to sleep. So last night I was sleeping there and I felt closed in, couldn't breathe properly, and so what I did is I came over here. This bag, by the way, is covered in mud, and there's a reason for that, which I'll explain later. So I slept here, but the problem is you're sleeping here and you're lying on your side and you've got this thing that's in your way and it's getting on your nerves. And the previous owner, I talked to him today and he said, oh well, you can take this out, you know, and move it. But I don't really want to do that, especially if I'm in a harbour or marina, constantly taking this table up and down. So ultimately what I'm going to do, I'm going to rethink this thing like an aircraft designer would do. In fact, the Galleon 22 seemed to just work for me. I think it's something to do with the fact that he was an aircraft designer. If I were on in an aircraft and I was sitting eating a meal, they would not grant me this amount of space just for my plate and bits and bobs. So it seems to me that there's more table here than I need. And if you look there, the edge of the table, it overlaps the seat, and that's the bit that's getting on my nerves, getting in the way. So what I'm going to do is I am going to have a situation where I can pull this cushion out, this one here, just a little bit more, and give me more space. So that'll be a very comfortable bed for me. This will stay. That's something nice and comfortable to lie against. But then, of course, the edge of this seat here, this here, will not be supported because I've pulled it out. So what I'm going to do, why nobody's ever designed it this way, I guess if there was a Mark II pageant, they would have done this. What I'm going to do here, there's a gap here, and it goes right up to the, well, there's space right up until the edge of this engine cupboard compartment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit a piece of wood across there, which will support the bed. So I'm going to end up, instead of that bed being that wide, if you can imagine, that ridge thing there will be moved out, so I'll get that amount yet again, and that'll be a very comfy bed for me, and it'll stay like that, I think. Well, it won't stay like that during the day, but it'll become my bed, and that's where I'll sleep. So when you wake up in the middle of the night, instead of being stuffed down some pipe, which, you know, a pipe berth is really basically a half of a coffin, and that's not a good thing to wake up in the middle of the night in a half of a coffin. So, and it's also tremendously difficult to get into. So I'm going to be waking up there feeling comfortable. Okay. Windows are kind of old school, portholey, curved shape kind of things, low stress. If you have sharp corners and things, it causes a lot of stress in the corners. This is much more desirable because it cuts down on the stress, makes the boat much stronger, stops flexing and all sorts of things. That sort of behaviour is actually the very first airliner had problems with its windows because they weren't more rounded. They rectified it later. Okay, there's an axe on the wall that was given to me as a present by my youngest son David. Dav on the helm in a previous video, and so I'm keeping that. That's a treasure, and when I get to Portugal I'll be using that. Okay, that's about it for now. Can't think of anything more to tell you about the interior of this. Anybody wanting to buy a Westerly Pageant, these are all the advantages. Oh yes, one last thing. The ceiling, much to my surprise, it doesn't have a liner on it. Westerlies all have liners, like a sort of skin thing, like the kind of thing that you get inside of a car, polyvinyl thing. And they're terrible because what they do is they lose adhesion to the roof and they start to drop down. But to be fair, they're all very old anyway, you know, so you can't expect no maintenance. However, the guys who sold me this, they've just painted the roof and there's no liner, which has two things. It means that the place is cold, but it also means that I don't have to take it off because I don't like those liners. I like a more traditional looking boat. So what I come up with is an ingenious plan. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plank it in wood, sort of wood, because I got a house in Portugal and I've got 10 oak trees, cork oak trees. Every 7 years a bunch of guys come round and strip the bark off. Now every year trees are having the cork oak stripped off for wine bottles and so on. But the thing about cork is actually wood. It's wood. It's just a particular type of wood that the tree makes, and it's really soft but quite tough. It's so tough, it's extremely light. It's about SG 0.3, and but it's so tough that you can actually make floors out of it and you walk on it. And what they normally do is grind it up into bits and then composite it all together and make cork floors, which gives you that sort of chipboard kind of random look. It's okay, but what I figure is that if you get the original cork and cut it down and cut it into planks and make cork planks off the actual stuff that came off the tree, then you could plank the ceiling here in something that weighed probably the same weight as balsa wood, or even just slightly bigger than that. But the advantage is that the sound would be really dimmed down. That was another disadvantage of having a ceiling like this. It's kind of, you can hear every sound. So that would make the sound level go right down, and it gives a sort of sense of security sitting in the quiet when there's a storm going outside. And also the insulation power of cork is just tremendous. So I'm going to do that ceiling there, and also around the portholes, these elongated porthole type window things. I'll retain that look of the aluminium going around there, but around it I will fit these planks which run up to it. This is going to take me forever, but it doesn't matter because I'm not intending to sell this boat, as I've said before. This boat is not for sale. So she'll be fully lined out in cork. And that Formica type stuff on the wall there, that's under consideration whether that goes the journey or not. I might overclad that with a wood veneer. I much prefer real wood to things that pretend to be wood. I've got a ship's clock for the first time, and it gets on my nerves because it ticks all the time. But strangely enough, I've stopped hearing it. Thank God for that, because I would lie in bed and it would be tick, tick, tick. But it's gone away. That's good. So that's it. The interior of a Westerly Pageant. Slowly, I will eliminate things that aren't necessary and make it a bit more efficient. One little criticism is the stairs. The step down on the stairs, it's a bit scary at first, because you got to take such a huge step. You feel like you're going to fall. So I'm going to put extra rungs in here, or remake these steps when I get down to Portugal. Plenty wood to do it there. One problem I had last night is, well, yesterday, is the fact that I spent so long up in town, and I was carrying stuff, and I missed the bus, and I got back and I was tired, and I felt like I had flu. I felt really ill. I don't feel very well at all, and I fell on the slippery mud there, and I nearly fell in the water, and the tide had just gone out, as you knew, because on the previous video I was waiting for it to go out. Hang on, let's get out here. So the tide had gone out, and I slipped on the freshly wetted mud and boulders there. And because those boulders are all rounded, they kind of roll against each other. They don't lock together like angular things would do. And then what happens is, once they start to slide, you just sort of toboggan down towards the water's edge. And I just narrowly missed falling in the water, but I ended up getting caked in mud and stuff, and my bag's messed up, but never mind. So I'm feeling a bit rough now. Hoping I had some paracetamol last night and a good night's sleep. I had a nap this afternoon, and it's now just a question of recuperating a bit. Just take a shot of the beer there before setting off tomorrow, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. There's a bunch of crazy people there swimming and that and surfing. I just don't get that sort of thing. If something's not warm, I don't want to do it, but that's me. Okay, that's it for now. A very long video, but you know, you've had a good look at a Westerly Pageant. Go and buy one. There's only 200 left in the world. There's only 199 now because I've got one. Okay. So, over and out. Bye.